Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our webinars organized by the Association TDM 2000 International. My name is Angelica Perra, and I'm representing here the TDM 2000 International, which is an international network of NGOs, of different organizations, non-for-profit, that work mainly in the youth field. Today, we will talk about how to manage an NGO, specifically an association, a non-for-profit association. We have already organized other webinars of this series, and this time we are going to talk specifically about strategic planning. Let's see how it's going to work today. So, managing an NGO, it's for sure a hard work. All of you that work in this field, and if you're attending this webinar, for sure, you know that managing your association, your organization, is not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing because already from the establishment of the organization, you have to face a lot of challenges. And a lot of different factors will influence how you will manage your organization. Indeed, the management of the association or your association doesn't depend only on how you decide to manage the organization, but it depends from a lot of factors. Some of them are internal, some of them are external. So we can imagine that our NGO is in the middle, in the center of a net, a spider net, like in this case. And we have our organization, our association, that we consider is a non-for-profit organization. Why we are taking into consideration non-for-profit organization, especially a youth organization? Because this is the target of our association, our network. But we will see, as we already saw in some other webinars, that the management of the NGO more or less is the same. Both if you consider youth NGO or if you consider another kind of NGO that, for example, addresses to adults or that does things connected only with charity or with preservation of the environment. This depends. This is connected, to the theme that you, to the scope of the organization. So we were saying that the management of the organization is not only what you decide to do in an organization, but is related to a lot of other elements. It affects its members, for example. It affects the activities of the organization. It affects the target groups to which you relate in your work. And also, it affects donors. It is related with donors and supporters you work with. If you are cooperating with banks or if you are cooperating with other sport clubs, it is different. If you're asking support to public institutions or to private institutions, also the way how you are managing these parts is different. Also, the sectors that are linked with the organization. So again, the topics, the scope of the organization is really very much interrelated with how you manage the activities and how you manage all the organizations. And all the other stakeholders that will get in touch with your work and with your activities, with the people that you manage. And finally, other NGOs, other organizations that maybe are your partners that cooperate with you, or they could be your competitors as well. Also, all the society, the whole broader, let's say, range of society is also affecting your organization and is affected by your organization. Indeed, we are also used to say that all these elements not only are affected by our work in the organization. But on the other hand, also, they affect our work. The associations are elements, are entities like the other the other engines of the societies, like the banks, like the public sector, like the business sector. They affect the society as a whole, and they create, they help their society to move and to go forward. I used to say that it's important to have NGOs in the society because they help developing cultural art, or because they support the protection of the environment, they protect rights. In general, we used to say that the NGOs create an alternative to the centralized state agencies, and they tend to provide some services that sometimes are not provided by the state or by centralized agencies. The NGOs, they have a broader scope that would be the one of promoting integration, intercultural understanding among the different people that live in society, for example, or to organize other activities to protect the environment, and many other roles and activities that we could identify in a society according to what we think could be the needs that our community has. So, in general, we can say that our societies here are pretty much affected by our work. When we talk about management of NGOs, we can ask ourselves, can I find a rule that is valid for everyone? That is possible to say that I follow this rule and everything will be okay. No, unfortunately, there are some, let's say, some schemes, some actions that could be applied to any kind of organization in any time, in any country. But there are others specific rules and habits, and therefore strategies that cannot be applied just because we are talking about an NGO. And this is exactly related to the fact that we live in environments that are different, and also we live in countries that are different, and the regulations of the countries are different. So, for example, if we talk about the establishment of an NGO, already from this point of view, can we say that there is a general rule for all of them? No, we cannot say that. We cannot say that because different are the rules for the registration of the organization. Something that, for example, in Estonia can take 5 minutes, in Italy could take 2 days or 1 day. Or according to the type of organization that you want to establish, in some countries it takes longer than in others. Also, exactly for some countries, they ask for payments when you are registering your organization. They ask for an exact number of members. And also, according to the country and to the regulation, we could have different kinds of associations. We could have non-for-profit, we could have a specific description of NGO. We could have associations that are recognized by the government, and for this reason they can access to specific funds, for example, and so on. So, as you see, we cannot really say that for the establishment of an NGO we can have the same rules for everyone, but there are some other elements that we have in every association, that we find in every association or organization. And these, for sure, are the fact that each association has its values, that are based on its members' values. We want to achieve a scope for the organization because we believe in certain values, and we believe that these values are important for the society in which our organization is established. And in the same way, all the organizations create their own mission, what they want to achieve in their actions. And also they have a vision, what they would like to do in the very long run. These elements are described in other webinars that we have already published. So if you're interested, you can browse and give a look to these other webinars. But now, what instead we would like to do, to talk with you, it's about strategic planning. After that you create your organization, you have to have a strategy to continue and to keep your organization alive. So let's start with a simple question that we can ask ourselves. What is a plan? And in general, already if we check in the dictionaries, we'll find that the plan is a series of thoughts, processes and actions written and agreed in the present in order to be implemented or carried out in the future. So this is a plan and could be applied to any kind of situation in your life. From when you organize to go out for a picnic to when you decide to get married or when you decide that you want to organize activities inside your organization. But what is a strategic plan? This is different. A strategic plan instead is a process, and it's not only a process, it's a disciplined process for making some decisions that are key decisions and to agree on actions that will shape and guide what your organization is, what does and why it does it. So there is a difference. And why do we need to make a strategic plan? There are several reasons that we can address. And before we go on with showing you these reasons, I invite you already to think which could be these reasons. For example, a strategic plan will help us in thinking in a creative way about the focus and directions that our organizations wants to take in its work. Also, it helps in reinforcing the team building by defining together what we want to achieve and a clear focus for our organization. When we create a strategic plan, it's always a group of people from the organization that is creating it. So probably, usually it's the board. But if you want to have more acceptance from the members of the organization, you can create a strategic plan working at different levels. First, you could gather together suggestions, ideas from all the members of the organization, organizing maybe a meeting in order to hear the voice of all the members. And then, together with a restricted number of people that could be members or board members or a selected team that will be working on a strategic plan, you will create this strategy. Afterwards, you will present the strategy to the rest of the members that will have to approve or not the plan. In this way, you are already putting all the members in a situation to feel part of the organization. Also, it helps, it is needed to develop plans in cooperation with other partner organizations, with other stakeholders, with other beneficiaries. If we have a strategic plan, we can go and talk with some donors or other stakeholders and tell them, listen, we are planning to do this and that for the next year. We would need to have support in this action. And you are the perfect subject entity to support us or to cooperate with us. Would you like to work with us? And you're showing that you are serious because you have already a plan that is established and you have clear ideas where you want to go. Still, it has to provide a framework against which to monitor the progress of your activities, to learn from your mistakes, and eventually to change some necessary actions in case it's needed. In this way, we could say also the strategic plan, it's also a monitoring tool for the activities of the organization. It helps to enable decisions to be made with the best use of the human and financial resources available, because you can exactly say how much you need for organizing one activity, how many people you need, what is the exact time of the year in which it's the best to organize the activity, and so on. A strategic plan model is not perfect for our organization. Usually we say that some organizations prefer to have 1 year strategy, others prefer to have 3-5 year strategies. It depends also on how your organization, how old is the organization, how much is the experience for your organization. And usually when you are starting, you don't make a very long strategy. Depends on the resources you have for your organization and what you want to achieve. So there isn't a perfect recipe for all of us. All depends on how much we want to invest, how many people we have, and on what we want to achieve. Sometimes, very often, also the environment in which you are working is very important. An effective strategic plan has to make choices, and these choices are made on basically 4 levels. The first one, it's about knowing who you are. It's extremely important to understand the identity and the mission of your organization. To have a clear and useful strategic plan, you have to have a clear idea of what you want to achieve in your organization. So why you will ask yourself questions like, why do we exist? What we want to achieve? What is the contribution that we can give to the society or to the world? In this case, we are saying to the world. What would be lost if we did not exist? So we start asking ourselves all these questions to understand better who we are and what is our mission. Exactly. Who are we? Can we change ourselves according to what we want to achieve? And at this point, we need to understand also what brings change. We need to have a knowledge of what are the external and internal elements that can bring change in our organization or to our environment. For example, if suddenly we don't receive a grant that we were receiving already from, let's say, 5 years, and this grant is cut, we're not receiving it anymore, we have to make changes because probably we will not be able anymore to pay all the salaries, so we will have to reduce the personnel, or probably we will have to change in another way. We will have to readjust and look for funds in another place. Or let's imagine that something happens to our environment and more NGOs that are working in the same field we are working in born, and they start to cooperate with us. We will have to change our strategy as well. And another very important element is to be able and be good in predicting how the environment is likely to change. As you can also read from this sentence. And one way that usually we say to explain this is, I skate to where I think the puck will be. So no over, because otherwise we'll follow in the lake. Also, it's needed to be rigorous and to plan and to understand from where we are starting. We have to be humble in this way, but also we have to be able to understand where we can reach, where we can go. So discussing openly about our weaknesses or our power, our strengths is very important for our strategy. Sometimes when very bad things happen, we tend to close ourselves, but this doesn't help. Especially doesn't help in an organization and in keeping the team spirit in the organization. Sometimes the confrontation it's more useful than closing ourselves in the bad facts. So we can say that planning strategically means making hard choices, or better, making a strategic plan, it doesn't mean making a shopping list. I don't write my strategic plan. I will hire 3 people, I buy 2 cars, I will organize 5 conferences, I will create 2 events to promote protection of the environment and so on. I can still write down all these things, but only if they're all connected and all of them they have a meaning and they can be supported by resources that could be human resources, but also financial resources, time, space, and all these elements that could make our activities work and not our organization go in bankrupt. So why do we need a written plan? Because we said why we need a plan, but why do we need it written? It's very easy if we just think about it. It helps keeping track of what we are doing. We can always follow it. If it's written, we can always go and see where we are and at which stage of our strategy we are. Also serves to develop an annual teamwork plan and also the annual budget. The annual budget is based on the strategic plan. It forms the basis for decisions on allocation of the resources, both financial and human, as we were saying before. And it helps to have continuity with the new staff. Sometimes it happens that we change staff. A person finds another job or for some reasons has to leave our organization and we don't know where to put our hands because this person was in charge of some projects, some activities, and we have no idea how to carry on without this person. So having a strategic plan written helps also to keep the track of what you're doing and to give in the hands of another person the continuation of a job that was initiated by a previous one. This is also something that we need to remember. Usually, a strategic plan is complemented by an operational plan which focuses on shorter-term goals. Usually, the shorter-term goals are over 12 months. And the strategic plan details what we should do, who should do the things, when the things should be done, and how much these things should cost. So it's a very short sentence that if we keep this in our mind, we're already doing something to manage in a way that it's qualitative and appropriate our organization. Now, which are the main steps to build a strategic plan? Who will be involved in the process? We have to consider which staff we want, which are the stakeholders, which are the beneficiaries. What will be their perceived roles in each of the activity, in each process that we are considering in our plan? What will be the different roles that the team members will be planning? How will be contributing the different counterparts, like the partner organizations, the beneficiaries, and so on? Who will be involved from outside the organization? What kind of external perspectives and experiences will help in planning our plan and making our plan, How much time will be set aside for the strategic planning? And how much time do we need to realize specific activities? For how long? How much time is needed by each member to work for it? How much time is needed from members or persons involved from outside the organization? Do we have a timetable? We need to have a timetable. Which are the relevant documents that need to be created in advance for a strategic plan? Do we need a budget? Do we need exactly an Excel file that will contain all the activities that we want to organize in order to fill it in with time and resources for each of these activities? Yes, no. If yes, we create them. Who will be responsible for creating these documents? And who will be responsible for all the notes that will be taken during the discussion? Also, we need somebody that is expert or that have knowledge about administration, and this person should be following all the process of the creation of strategic plan. We have a short list of tips that we could give for success. So first of all, make a list of who might be involved in the process. We have to consider particular skills and experience of each person that we want to bring, that we want to involve in the process. We have to use the expertise of the board members in order to take the most out of this for the advantage of the organization. We should allocate tasks to individual and the work done together with the timetable. We should consider holding a workshop when we start the project to present proposal for developing strategic plan, and another one at the end of the process to share the draft plan in order that we make all the members feel part of the strategy. And we have to be clear about how much involvement is asked by each of the members. More, we have to agree on what kind of external inputs we need and invite the different people in this case with well time in advance. We have to decide if use or not a person that will facilitate the process of creating the strategic plan. Do we need somebody, or can we make everything by ourselves? Again, it depends how big we want to make our strategic plan, or it depends also how much experience there is in the group that is creating the plan. Usually it helps to have somebody that is taking notes and that is, let's say, gathering all the ideas together in order to avoid chaos with all the different inputs that can come out during the discussion. So, some questions that we have to take into consideration. First of all, we have to ask ourselves for what purpose was the organization established, and which kind of policies and principles influence the way the organization operates. What is the external legislation? Which are the agreements that we have to respect? What are the internal rules and regulations that we have to respect that they can influence our role, our statute? Do we have particular rules that do not allow us to do specific things? We have to keep them in mind. What influence can have the stakeholders or on the program that we want to create? So, given all these things, what can be possible for our organization to do? Then we have to consider other factors, which is the legal status of our organization, the national laws that affect the operation of the NGOs, the other agreements that maybe we already have established with some internal donors or with other bodies, because sometimes if we have already contracts, agreements with donors that, for example, do not allow us to ask for a second grant for the same kind of activities, we cannot do it. So we cannot foresee it in our strategic plan. This was an example. Also, to take into consideration the expectations of the stakeholders, otherwise we risk to lose them. And the statute already said. So now, before leaving you with these hopefully tips and food for thought that we gave you during this lesson, this short webinar, not lesson, just to keep in mind how to make the strategic plan. So first, let's start from our values, which are the values that took us together, that took us to create our organization, which is the vision that we have, the long run, the future that we see for our organization and for the world. And in this future that we see for the world, which is the mission that our organization has in order to reach this vision. At this point, we have to think which kind of structure we want to give to our NGO, so we have to think about the program, and we have to decide also who is doing what. And each time that we decide that we need somebody to do something, we have to ask ourselves this very important question: is it necessary all the time? Remember that everything has a cost, and sometimes the costs are not only money-wise. Managing the human resources. Do we really need all these figures? Job description can help in understanding if we really need all these people to work in our NGO. And finally, but very important, the financial resources and the budgeting, to understand if we have the capacity to afford all the expenses that we are planning. At this point, I just want to say thank you for the attention, and just invite you to follow us for the next webinar that will be on organizational structure. If you would like also to receive specific assistance, or you need some explanation on some of the parts that we were discussing about, don't hesitate to write us to this email address. And you can ask or refer to the webinar of Angelica. Thank you very much again for your attention, and hopefully see you soon. Have a nice evening.